Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria Online. If you're joining us for the first time today, my name is Carrie Hunter, and I'm the spiritual director of the center. And we meet in person on Sundays at the Cook Street Village Activity Center at 380 Cook Street in Victoria. And if you'd care to join us in person, we would love to see you there and to welcome you into our community. But meanwhile, it's lovely to see you online today. My topic today is an idea whose time has come. And since the beginning of recorded history, there are likely millions of ideas whose time have come along the way. But I was thinking specifically the last few days about my grandmother. She came to Canada from England as a little girl. And when she did, the means of transportation was basically horse and buggy, which we've all heard about and probably not many of us have ever experienced. And at one point, her parents took her back to England for a holiday, and they went by steamship. So that was her first experience on the ocean, and it was a long, long crossing. And then coming back to Canada again by steamship. And she actually witnessed the driving of the last spike, which was the Canadian Railroad. It's what really united the country with rail. And so she then saw trains that had steam engines. You know, again, not a new technology, but these amazing ideas and the great courage and passion and hard work that it took to do those kinds of things. And she drove an automobile. It was a time when going 30 miles an hour was absolutely terrifying. You know, hard for us to imagine that today. But in the beginning, it was considered to be a very, very high speed. And she did that. And she actually took her first flight. It wasn't way back when the Wright brothers were experimenting. It was much later on when she was in a prop job and went to the US on that plane. And she thought that that was a blooming miracle. Well, you know, if I were her, I would have thought it was a blooming miracle as well. Because it is, when we think about it, such an extraordinary thing to go from horse and buggy to an airplane. But then, after that, she lived long enough to watch the moon landing, the first men to set foot on the moon. And she was just amazed and somewhat bewildered by what she saw, because as we watched it, it was getting dark outside and we could see the moon, big full moon outside our window. And then on television, we could see Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. You know, difficult for me to comprehend, let alone for her to comprehend. But all she could say is, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. And her television was a miracle because, you know, she didn't ever see television when she was younger, or even as a, well, she was pretty elderly by the time that television came along. And she did have radio. She didn't have a telephone. You know, if we wanted to call her, she lived in Edmonton. If we wanted to call her, we would call a neighbor down the street, and she would run down the street and get Nan and bring her to her house. And while we were waiting on the line to talk to her, it never occurred to her to have her own telephone. It was just, you know, something that was way, way out of reach. And here we are today with the amazing technology that we have. You know, we're the first space tourists, if they could be called that, have been up in space the last couple of weeks. And things continue to, I mean, there's, you know, we're getting pictures from Mars. Who could ever imagine that we would be seeing these kinds of things? The technology is absolutely extraordinary. And of course, with social media, with, you know, with the internet, with all of the things that are available to us today, you know, again, if we look at each one, it was an idea whose time had come. Excuse me. It was an idea that someone had along the way, or that a group of people had. And they were passionate about it, and they wouldn't give up because they believed that it was possible. And so they were inspired to carry on with whatever it was they were doing so that they could reach their goals. And there may have been many times along the way where things looked like a failure, but they were just stepping stones. and stepping stones to another reality, to another experiment until they got it right. And so as I think about those things, I was looking at my own life and thinking, if I could select just one great idea whose time had come, what would it be? And I realized that for me, it was the discovery of this teaching, Science of Mind. It was, oh gosh, I don't remember what year it was. I think it was about 1990. But I didn't get into full-blown spiritual studies for a few years after that, probably about 1995, and then became a minister in 2004. So for me, it was time. There was something that was calling me, that was pulling at me, and I had a huge career that I left because I could not say no to this idea, to this calling inside me, something that would not go away, that was saying, you're going to be a minister. This is what you're here to do. This is really what you're here to do. And I had some difficulty coming to some kind of reckoning with that, because I thought, well, was all else in vain? Was I doing all those other things? Did I have all those other careers and they didn't matter at all? But I could look back and I could see that they did matter. They mattered to a lot of other people, and they mattered to me, but not in the same way that ministry did. There was something in me from the time I was a little child that wanted to know a lot more about God. I wanted to understand God. I wanted to find a God I could understand. And in Science of Mind, I found a God I could understand. I found that universal source, that one God, that one intelligence, that one greatness that is all that is, and that lives, moves, and has its being in me and in you and in everyone everywhere. Excuse me, it was Victor Hugo who said, there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And that's really what I found when I decided to get into this teaching full time and to make it my life. It was really powerful, and it was something that I could not say no to. It was an unstoppable thing in my life at that time, and it still is. It matters to me at the depth of my being. Now, I realize that we are not all carved out to be ministers, but I do know that we are all carved out to really understand the truth of who we are, that we are spirit having a human experience. A lot of people think that it was Ernest Holmes who first said that, or that it was Joel Goldsmith or someone like that, but actually it was Teilhard de Chardin who first said it and who first wrote it, and that was so many years ago. It was an absolutely brilliant mind, a metaphysician, a psychologist, um, a, a physicist, somebody who just was interested in everything and had so much knowledge and influenced so many people. And I just absolutely love the work that he did. And the thing that we know today is that we're living in a time where we understand that absolutely everything is energy. Now, you might be looking at your monitor right now and saying, well, what are you talking about? How could that be energy? It's not moving. It's sitting right here in front of me on my desk, or it's on a phone, or it's on a tablet, whatever it is you happen to be viewing at the time. And you think it's solid, but it's not. I mean, it is to our sensibilities. But the thing is that when we really seriously look at this, if we had the right microscope, we would see that it was all energy. We would see that the desk where I'm sitting right now is all energy, that the chair I'm sitting on is energy, that the walls around me are energy. It's just they vibrate at a density that makes it appear that they are solid. And the thing that is really important about this is that we now are into the field of quantum physics. Yes, we're still using Newtonian physics, and there are important things in Newtonian physics. But in the quantum world, we can actually see where our thoughts influence what is being manifest. And it shows us the importance, the critical importance of our thoughts, of our thinking, of how we create our reality according to what we think. Now, we often say, well, change your thinking, change your life. And it's one of those kind of flip remarks that we make. The thing is that it isn't really that simple. Um, and it's not really about changing a single thought that we have. It's about looking at ourselves and our lives in a different way. It's about seeing that we are ideas whose time has come, that we were created for this time in history. We were created to understand these concepts and to use them for the betterment of our own lives, but also for the betterment of others. To truly understand that what we think, what we send out to the world has an impact. And so it's important for us to be conscious of those things. And probably all of you remember the movie, The Secret, the book that came out, The Secret, that was written by Rhonda Burns. I remember it vividly because my teacher at the time, and I don't remember what year it was, I might have already been a minister, I don't know, can't remember, but I was a staff minister for 6 years at a center for spiritual living in White Rock. And, excuse me, and my senior minister, Reverend Terry Shea, asked me to create curriculum from the book, The Secret, and I did so. I was a little bit reluctant, not because I felt that it was too big a job. It's just that I didn't really resonate with The Secret. And it took me quite a while to figure out why I didn't. And it turns out that the reason I didn't was that it was all about accumulating stuff, for want of a better word. It was about amassing, the big house, the big car, all of the furniture, the big trips, the money, all of those kinds of things. And there's nothing wrong with having those things. I'm not being critical of that at all. The thing is that to me, it didn't really address who we were as spiritual beings. And I remember at Christmas that year being with a group of people and being seated at a table with 5 young people. And one of them asked the question if anyone had read The Secret. And I said I had. And others at the table hadn't. And he ran home, which was next door, and picked up 6 copies of the movie on video cassette and brought them back and gave them to people at our table and told them how important it was, how it had changed his life, his wife's life, had improved their marriage, had made him very successful in his career. And I thought, it's really interesting. The thing is that they used the principles, they practiced them. He said every week they would strike off their list of things that they wanted to accomplish, or that they had accomplished, and would write down some new ones. But he and his wife would also have a meeting once a week to talk about their own relationship and how they wanted that to look. And so they worked at it, and they worked hard at it, and they were successful. And the thing is that when we are in alignment with Spirit, when we're in alignment with God, when we recognize who it is we really are, we don't have to work so hard at it. We actually don't have to work hard at all. The thing is that when we are in alignment, then just being in gratitude brings us the things in our lives that we need. We don't have to be wanting. Wayne Dyer once said, if you're living in the gimme, 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 gimme world, then you're living in a world where you're saying that you don't have enough. You're always wanting more. Give me more. Give me something bigger. Give me something better. Make me more prosperous. That's not prosperity. That's not abundance. That's living in lack. And so what we're telling the universe, what we're telling God is, I don't have enough. I still have to have more. And so what happens is it creates more of a longing and a wanting for more stuff in our lives, rather than, and it was Wayne Dyer who said this, how about waking up in the morning and saying, good morning, God. Thank you for today. Thank you for life. And thank you for everything that I've been blessed with. How may I serve you today? What is it that is mine to do that is in service to you? I remember reading that and just feeling so inspired and so in love with those words that it has become a daily ritual for me. How may I serve? What may I do today to serve? When we're in that place where we're asking how we can serve, and when we know that every single thing we do is in service to God, it doesn't mean that we're, you know, prostrating ourselves on the floor of a church somewhere and praying. That's not what it means at all. It means that we understand the truth of who we are. We understand that all our needs are met. And basically, we're asking what we can do to further the good for humanity and for our own lives and for the lives of our family and our friends, for our communities. It's just about being a good human being more than anything else. It's asking yourself, you know, if I didn't understand that God was ever present within me, if I still thought that God was some outside force, which it isn't, you know, how would I want God to express? What would I want God to say? What would I want God to do? And then we have to ask ourselves those questions because we are all expressions of the divine. And when we do that, things become easier. Thomas Edison wrote that success basically was 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I read that and I thought, wow, that's doing it the hard way. You know, how about 99% inspiration and 1% perspiration? I'll have some of that, thank you. Wouldn't we all prefer to have our lives unfold that way? And it's as easy as understanding the truth of who we are, really understanding it, not just saying, oh well, one day, someday, I'll get busy and learn more about that. Someday is not a day of the week. This is the moment. This is the time, right here and right now. This is an idea whose time has come. This is the way that each of us can make a difference in the world. And this is the way that we can see things unfold for us in a much easier way and know that we are absolutely supported by a universal force. You know, as we align with God, the universe just aligns itself with us and our needs are always met. We have to understand that we are limitless beings, that all of that power is within us. And we're here for a purpose. And we may think that we've outlived that time. If we've had careers and given up our careers, we may think, oh, well, I'm too old for that. No, we're never, ever too old. It is never, ever too late. Now, how do we align ourselves with spirit? Well, the Tao put it very, very simply, and I really loved the way that it did. It said, of the four virtues, the first one is having a reverence for all life. Really respecting all life, being in awe of all life. I saw or heard a documentary on the radio the other day that ants, I mean, we know that little ants have a very organized system for living, but they actually, when one of them dies, they actually have a place that they take that dead ant and bury it, and there is something like a funeral procession. I mean, that gave me a whole new appreciation for ants. There is so much that we don't understand. We keep hearing miraculous stories about animals and about birds, but ants? I mean, it never occurred to me that there was a kind of consciousness in an ant, that those ants would know that they had to bury a dead ant. You know, it opens up the whole world to so many more possibilities and so much more reverence for life. just since I heard that, I can't imagine stepping on an ant deliberately, or doing anything to hurt any insect in a deliberate way. So the first thing is to have reverence for all life. And the second is to be authentic. You know, don't don't be who someone else wants you to be. Be your authentic self, where you know deep down in your soul that this is who you are meant to be. And be gentle, and be kind, and be supportive. Because the more that we do these things, the more the universe supports us. And we can do anything if we believe that we can. As soon as we say, oh no, I can't, that's too tough for me, I wouldn't know how to do that, then we definitely can't. But when we just say, bring it on, I'm up for this, miracles do happen. They've happened in so many lives before us, and there's no reason why they can't do the same for us. Now, Wayne Dyer wrote, and probably others did as well, saying, don't die with your music still left in you. Don't you love that? I think as long as we're here, as long as we're alive, there's music that's left within us. There's something left for us to do. And, it could be some grand idea that is tapping us on the shoulder, something we'd forgotten about, something that we still would like to do. Or maybe some little thing, but in the mind of God, there is no big and there is no small. Everything is equal. And so whatever it is that is calling you, whatever it is, remember the truth of who you are. You're a spirit having a human experience, and all the power of creation is within you. And you need but listen to the deepest part of your soul and your heart to know what the next step will be. And to follow that dream, to follow it passionately, and you will accomplish it. How sad to think that we might move on, transition to the next realm of being without having fulfilled what it was that we actually came here to do. We need to be asking ourselves the question, what is it really? And then we need to listen and not to just dismiss it and not to say, well, I will never know. We need to listen until we really get it. Remember that you are a divine idea in the mind of God, a wonderful idea whose time has come. I remember a few years ago listening to Dr. Ken Gordon, who was then the head of religious science, and a wonderful minister, Dr. Carol Carnes. It was at a retreat, and I happened to be the only one who showed up after lunch to listen to this mentor series, which was so amazing. And Ken said, that this new thought movement of which we're a part of is growing throughout the world. He said people are waking up everywhere. But the thing is, we don't see it. It's not on the evening news. We don't see stories about it on television. But it is happening everywhere, and it's below the radar. And he said, what is happening is it's growing and growing and growing. And we need to remember this, that we must not think that there are only a few of us who think this way. There are now millions of people who are thinking this way. There are millions of people who, one way or another, are seeking, are studying, are understanding. They're understanding that religion with dogma just doesn't work. But the truth of creation, that is science aligned with spirituality, is where it's all at. And he said, one day we're going to wake up and we're going to turn on the news on television, and we're going to see images of people marching in the streets, and they won't be marching in protest. They will be marching in love. And he said, those who are watching are going to say, who are they? Where did that come from? How did that happen? Well, we will know how it happened. He said, it'll be like the Arab Spring. It'll be a sensation on the internet and social media. We will move from the darkness into the light. And he said, we're not that far away. A few more years, we're not that far away. Let's be part of that movement seriously, not just pretending, not just thinking, well, maybe I might. Let's get serious about it. Let us understand it. Let us truly understand the creativity of our lives, of how powerful we are, of what we can do with that power within in the most humble way. How may I serve? How may I serve you? How may I serve God? How may I serve the universe on this day? No matter what it is that I am doing, let me remember that I am in service to the divine. I want to share a favorite quote with you to finish today. It was written by Teilhard de Chardin, and you may have heard this before, and I absolutely love it. Someday, after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we shall once again harness for God the energies of love. And then, for the second time in the history of the world, we shall have discovered fire. Let us light that fire here in our hearts and minds and see God's plan unfold. We are an idea whose time has come, and so it is. Thank you for being here with me today. If you like what you've heard and you'd care to make a donation to our center, you can do so by e-transfer to donate@cslvictoria.org. Or you can go to our website, www.cslvictoria.org, and there is a donate button there, which allows you to make a contribution by PayPal or on a credit card. We appreciate all that you give. It helps us to maintain our center and to grow and to thrive. And once again, if you've not joined us before, we welcome you with open arms if you'd like to come and visit us some Sunday for message and meditation and refreshments afterward, getting to know people of like mind. It's a wonderful experience. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again.